Hello people of Scoopy Sites, I'm Mr. Spork and these are Mr. Spork's hands. I'm in the kitchen today, but guess what? I'm not talking about food, nothing even remotely edible. I'm talking about one of the most glamorous topics on the internet. I'm talking about cat litter. Yep, I'm going to talk about cat poop because I got a couple, and you know what? The cat scooping, cat litter process was just driving me crazy and costing me a fortune. Even if you don't own a cat, you probably know somebody that does own a cat, and you can share this idea with them. It's incredibly simple. The internet has known about this secret for years and years, but I actually heard about it from one of the local cat rescue purveyors. They were kind enough to share with me how they did cat litter on the cheap. And basically, I've gotten away from the scooping bentonite clay cat litter, the stuff that clumps up. That stuff's heavy, it's expensive, it's not mined in a particularly environmentally friendly way. You got to dump it all into the garbage can because it doesn't really decompose. It's a complete mess, and my budget for that stuff was anywhere from $25 to $30 a month. I've got two girls, and they were really kind of going through the stuff. Even that was kind of stretching the budget a little bit. $25 or $30 a month really adds up quick. But guess what? Now I am using what all the pros are using. I'm using wood pellets. Now, a lot of times you'll see people talk about pine pellets or even some of the pine pellet litters. Guess what? The pine pellet litters are, generally speaking, wood stove pellets in a bag with pretty pictures of cats on them. Exact same product. So buyer beware there. Up here in Canada, we're lucky enough that we can actually get hardwood pellets, and that gets me past some of the concerns a few people have about using pine. Pine is, in fact, a toxic ingredient, but some people on one side of the argument say, hey, there's so little contact with the cat in the litter box that it's not really an issue. Other people say you should never get pine anywhere near their cats. I'm not going to try to answer those questions for you because you can go do that reading and research for yourself. But for me, I was able to get hardwood pellets for the exact same price. In fact, they were a little bit cheaper than softwood pellets. They were $6.50 for an 18 kilo bag, that's 40 pounds for you folks down in America, which is the same weight that most of the cat litter comes in. But the trick here is you can almost tell that the hardwood pellets, not only are they double the volume by weight, but you use fewer to fill and you scoop out fewer. So I think my budget, instead of $25, is now down below $3 a month using these hardwood pellets. The way they work, this is how they come, kind of polished and smooth, but as they get wet, they disintegrate down into sawdust, and that's what I've got here. No, I am not handling used cat litter and cat pee. These are some that I just soaked in the sink for you guys to see. You might be saying, oh, this sounds a little too good to be true, and if there is a catch, it's that some fussy cats really don't take well to switching over to these hard, lumpy pellets right at first. There are some tricks, but you know, if you start out kittens, they don't seem to know any better and they just dive right in. My girls are really good too. They don't really seem to be that picky about where they poop, and they just started using it right away. But if you need to make a transition, you can try to do a mix of the scooping and the pellets. You can also try to take some used litter because there'll be a scent cue there for the cats. Put that in. And the other trick that I tell people is that if you'll take a little bit of water and just make some squirts around in the fresh fill as if the cats have used it, some of that will, of course, dissolve into sawdust, and the sawdust is obviously a much softer feel. Feels more right to the cats, I think. They really like that, satisfy that urge to cover well. They want to get away from the poop as quickly as you do. So try pre-dissolving a few of them if you're having some transition troubles. But really, I gotta say, I think the long-term gains far outweigh any sort of short-term suffering that you have to go through. It's well worth it. I've seen people give up after a day. You know, cats are creatures of habit. It's going to take them a few days to get used to the new thing. As you can see, my girls dive right into it whenever they get the chance. But don't give up and do keep trying. Try the different transitions, but ultimately you're going to need to use a little bit of tough love and say, hey, this is what we're using now, and get there. You can, of course, scoop the solids. You need to scoop the solids every day, and if you don't want to sift and bother with it, you can dump it out after it's kind of half spent, and it will be still a big savings. But if you really want to save on the cat litter budget, you're going to have to go through some sifting. What you do to scoop them is actually what I call a reverse scoop. That is to say, you take your good old-fashioned slotted scooper and you scoop out the good ones, put them into a second litter box. I don't use covered or specialty litter boxes. I use these cheap tubs from the Mega Mart. They're actually, I think, $4 or $5 a piece, and you can get a couple of them so that you can keep them rotated. But basically, you scoop them out. The first time I was doing it, I was shaking like this. Half of them were falling out. I figured out the trick that when you scoop them, you hold it up against the side and shake it. The sawdust falls down below, you take the good pellets and you put them over into your other box, top it up with a few extra fresh ones, and boom, you're off to the races for another few days. You do still have to scoop the solids every day, but for my two girls, about every third day I have to go through and do a sifting scoop. Now, before long, if you can get your cats switched over to this system, you're going to say to yourself, hey, there's got to be an easier way, and you're going to go looking at the sifting litter boxes that you find online. The problem with those is that most of them really are engineered to use clay litter, clumping clay litter, and the mesh, the holes on the bottom of them can be too big. Sometimes, depending on which way these pellets are shaped, they can go this way or that way, or they can go through. Sometimes they fall through, sometimes they clog up the sifter. It's not really designed for the wood pellets. So you need something with finer mesh. Well, guess what? I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to make it for $1. Concerns about using pine in the scenario for a cat litter box. There's pros and cons. Some people say doesn't matter at all, and there's minimal contact that cats have with the litter. Okay, before I show you my $1 wood pellet sifter hack, I gotta talk about safety. You really do need to get yourself some heavy gloves for working with one of the materials I use here. I'm not talking flexible gardening gloves, it'll go right through that. I'm talking seriously heavy, thick canvas gloves. Please don't ignore this. I'm not just telling you because the lawyers made me say it. I'm telling you because this stuff is incredibly sharp and dangerous if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. As you can see, I've switched into nice heavy work pants, and as the infinitely wise Norm Abram used to always say in New Yankee Workshop, there is no more important step than to wear these safety glasses. I am wearing a pair behind the camera, I promise you that. So what you need to do the project, everybody that has a cat probably has some of these nice heavy cat litter boxes laying around. That's what I'm going to use. I like them because they've got the handles on them, and they're about the right size for me, but any size box will work. What you do is you take the bottom and you're going to take your box knife and you're going to basically cut down all four of the bottom flaps. I'm going to cut it about like so on all four sides, and then I'm going to use some of the handyman's secret weapon. Yes, I'm pulling out the duct tape. Everybody's got duct tape. It does a fabulous job. Use all of your origami practice or Martha Stewart crafting Zen experience and get yourself something taped up that looks like this. I've reinforced the sides, but basically you're leaving about a 2-inch gap around the whole bottom using your duct tape. The trick for making the sifter on the bottom is that we need some kind of a sifting material. Now, those of you that have seen my sprouting jar lid video, remember this stuff, it's plastic canvas. This stuff theoretically would have worked great, but these holes are a little too small, so don't even try that, doesn't work. Alright, what you need next, or what I tried next I should say, was some rabbit cage material that my lovely farm neighbor was going to loan me, but those holes were a little too big. I was looking for that third bowl of porridge just perfect, and that's when I found this dangerous stuff. It's called hardware cloth. I hope you can see this on camera. And I'm telling you, these edges, it's like juggling a clown car full of razor blades. You do not want to work with this stuff without your hands protected. This whole sheet cost me a whopping $2. It's enough to make 2 or even 3. Depending on the size of the box that you're using. And so what you do is you cut it down into a size that's going to fit the bottom of your box. You're going to need some heavy straight shears like this, or again get the guys at the hardware store to cut it down for you. But please, when you're working with it, do keep gloves on your hands. So you flip the bottom over, and if there's a little trick to it, I bend it so that it's a little bit of a curve like that. I've got it, and I just push this stuff, if I can hold it with my knees, and push it right down into the bottom of the thing. It's a little bit oversized, but that's okay because we wanted a nice tight pressure fit. In it goes. And in some of my prototypes, if I was using a particularly wide box, I noticed that I might need a little bit of cross support, horizontal support, so you can use your handy dandy Chinese chopstick if you need it. But if you keep the box size reasonable, you don't really need that at all. And boom, you've got yourself a $1 sifter using this hardware cloth. The specific measurement on the grid is 1/4 inch. And if you go and measure your manual cat scoop, you should be able to get that same kind of measurement if you forget 1/4 inch. But again, 1/3 inch, 1/2 inch doesn't work, they're too big, and the other materials that I could find, like the plastic canvas, were too small for that sawdust to sift out. So there you go, that is your $1 sifting hack. I'm gonna go grab the dirty cat litter and show you, again, one of the more glorious parts of the internet. I'm gonna show you the sifting in action. Okay, so here's the used litter, the partially used litter, I should say. You can see it's a mix of the unexpanded pellets and some sawdust. We're going to do this into the sifter. I find it's handy to have 2 or maybe even 3 of these blue plastic tubs for your litter boxes. That way you can kind of do it in smaller batches if you're using a particularly big fill, but kind of depends on your circumstance. So in it goes. You grab the, you're going to grab the handles. And there is this spent sawdust. That goes out into the compost heap. Use a dedicated compost heap. Don't use it for your food crops. Give it a couple of years for the rain to soak it down. The still good litter goes in here. And of course I'm usually going to do this outside rather than in the middle of the living room, but the lighting outside is terrible. Take in some fresh pellets, put them on top, spread it out, and you are back in business. I do hope this saves you a bunch of money. I hope you stop using that crazy scooping cat litter. I appreciate you thumbs upping and liking and tweety Facebook gramming and all that other instant media, social media stuff that you do. As always, if you need anything from me, just check out that blog up there in the corner. I've got a little article about all the different materials I tried when I was going through this process, as well as recipes and crazy ramblings from Canada. Again, I appreciate you watching. Until next time, I'm Mr. Spork. These are Mr. Spork's hands, and this is Little Bug, who just can't wait to dive in for a new round of the litter box. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers. Say hello to the internet.